Greetings, everybody, to this weekly wilderness webinar this week called Why Are You Like That? I'm Mandy Robinson Young, and I am a psychologist and eco-psychologist. In this format, I'm passionate about taking people on an online safari to gain personal and professional life insights. And this evening, I have with me Robin Hills. And he is he can introduce himself a little bit, but just to sing some of his accolades, he is a guru in the emotional intelligence arena. He is internationally sought after from UK to Dubai to Africa, and he does very amazing assessment and program creation work that is just made specifically for the people that he's working with. You want to add anything to that, Robin?
No, I think that's a fair summary. Thank you so much, Mandy.
Okay, great. So the way in which this works is I believe that when we experientially watch some wildlife interaction, it is something we really connect with because our brains are primed that way. We have our basic limbic system, our primal system that's all about bonding and survival. And then we have our more developed areas of our brain, without going into too much detail, the neocortical areas where we do a lot of more transcendent thinking, dreaming, problem solving. So when we have this kind of experience, it kind of sticks with us because it just is something we identify with. So tonight, what we're going to talk about, why are you like that, is based on the natural elements of fire, water, air, and earth. Thank you. And it's the tetramat is a way of assessing your emotional intelligence using these natural elements. It's a very holistic way, obviously a way we all identify with. And it's had some really, really amazing results. So not only in terms of personal understanding and development, in terms of knowing who you are, but also how to work with others in the workplace, how to know their strengths, their personality, orientations, and how to take that into account when you're working together as a team. So the way we work in this kind of weekly wilderness webinar format is that I'm going to show you some video footage. This evening, it's going to be of a chameleon. So we've got two videos we're going to watch, and I encourage you as you watch them to jot down some notes, just some thoughts that come into your mind as you watch, as you experience the different videos that we are going to encounter. Let me share my screen and let's get started. I think we got the gist of what was going on there. As a platform to discuss about the earth, water, air, fire, strengths, elements, focuses in all of our personalities in different ways. As we watch this chameleon, is there anything that you could think would build into that, into the discussion?
No, I think the interesting thing about the chameleon there is within that video we see it changing color, but a lot of the color changes there are quite unnatural, aren't they? The chameleon usually blends in with its environment. So what we're seeing there is the chameleon changing color for some reason, and it's showing a level of change and adaptability based upon what it thinks is appropriate or what some external force is thinking is appropriate and imposing that upon the chameleon.
It's a bit of a trick video that I threw in here, so I didn't expect you to come up with any amazing answers. I think some of the things that I noticed is that when we come to have that tetra map as a guide as to whether we're more earthy, whether we're more passionate and fiery, whether we're watery and smooth and caring, or whether we have vision like the magnitude of the wind. For me, if the chameleon resembles that, the chameleon didn't actually change. The actual structure of the chameleon didn't change. And just like with us, our main character strengths, who we are, doesn't essentially change. And I was thinking as well when I watched that video, why does it keep changing colors? What's it responding to? But as I watched it a second time, the little captions at the bottom gave some indication that it was hearing different sounds. So my thoughts were, well, maybe it's changing according to the different sounds in the environment, the different environmental stimuli that it's then adapting to. So what I wanted to highlight is as we, Robin talks a little bit further about the tetra map and the 4 elements as parts of describing our personality strengths, it's important to stay who we are in different situations. But it's also important to be very thoughtful and mindful of what's going on in our environment. And our environment might be an actual physical environment. Our environment might be the thoughts and ideas other people have. The environment might be the different characteristics other personalities bring into the mix when we're working as a team. So those are the things that I got out of that video. But now I'm going to show you a much more interesting one. And what I found fascinating about the video we're about to watch is it offers some real truths and does away with some thoughts that we thought were facts and actually are not when it comes to why do chameleons change colors. Let me share my screen again and show you the second video.
This video has 18 million views on YouTube, and it's fake. TV shows get this wrong. Movies get this wrong. Paint commercials get this wrong. It seems the world has a huge misconception about how chameleons actually change color. So, what's the truth? Inside a chameleon's skin, you'll find cells with red and yellow pigment. I thought these cells were like the pigment cells in squid and cuttlefish. Whoa. You see how they're moving? Cuttlefish can expand or contract these pigment cells using little muscles. This helps them change all sorts of colors very quickly. But I was wrong. Chameleons can't control these pigment cells. They're just there. But they also have cells with darker melanin pigment. Chameleons can control these. Not like this, but like this. This is a video of a tilapia changing color. Tilapia. They can disperse the melanin through their cells, which can help a fish, like this dusky rabbitfish, change color. And when they want to change back, they just reverse the process. Chameleons can do the same thing. They can disperse the melanin in their skin to get darker or concentrate it to get lighter. But that's not all. There's one more thing that chameleons use to change color. Microscopic crystals in their skin. These crystals reflect specific colors of light, and by changing the distance between the crystals, chameleons can change the color of light that they reflect. So these are kind of like the tools that chameleons use to change color. They can disperse and concentrate melanin in certain cells and change the distance between their skin crystals to reflect different colors of light. Okay, but what do they look like after they change colors? Well, they don't look like this. We know that already. Okay, fine, I'll show you. Here's a real chameleon color changing video. It's from a scientific study. The original color of the chameleon will be in the bottom corner. The change is much more gradual and it's not as uniform. But not all chameleons look the same when they change color. Here's some photos from another research project. The chameleons started this brownish color, and they could change to be very bright green, have black stripes with bright orange swatches, or be much more pale with kind of like a yellow tail and feet. But here's our next question though. Why do chameleons change color in the first place? Because it's definitely not to blend in. Chameleons blend in more with their default color. When they change color, they're very bright and extremely colorful. This would be a terrible form of camouflage. To put it simply, chameleons are most often changing color as a reflection of their mood. When they're very bright or colorful, that means they're very excited. So maybe they're interested in fighting or mating. When chameleons are a darker or more muted color, that means they're feeling more submissive or relaxed. Maybe they're admitting defeat in a fight or showing they're uninterested in mating. Chameleon colors are really just the beginning. Bird colors can get even more confusing. Here's a cardinal I found that was half red and half gray. Why do you think?
Okay, so I'll stop at that. So that was a very interesting video, don't you think? What did you think about that, Robin?
Well, that's very interesting because it is indicating that whilst chameleons change color, a lot of their color is driven by their preferences and their behavior.
I like that as well, because I like that about, in terms of what we're discussing tonight, is again, their structure doesn't change, but they choose, when they want to change color. And in some ways, one of the things is they change this melatonin, or they reflect the light. And when they change the melatonin, it can go one way or the other. They do have some control over that. And when they reflect the light, it can be quite different for different people. But a lot of it comes down to what mood they're in. So we talk about chameleons as changing, as being creatures who just fit in. But actually, I think part of finding out who your personality is that we're all born to stand out. We're not meant to fit. We're born to stand out with our unique contributions that we can make, our unique greatness that we can live into. So I like the fact that when they want to connect, whether it's for conflict or for mating, you know, when you really want to show a lot of passion, you know, their color is bright, it stands out. And I think that's a bit like us. You know, when we want to connect, there's a lot more energy, a lot more going on. And then at times we don't want to connect. At times we just want to be a little bit quiet. We want to lick our wounds. We want to be a little bit, just listen and observe rather than be actively responding. And then we're a little bit quieter in our color. So I quite like those aspects of the chameleon that were more factual than the first video that had so many millions of people watching it, and it was all fake. So Robin, I'm going to hand over to you now to talk a little bit about what tetra mapping is all about using the 4 natural elements. So let me just make you host. Here we go to participants. Okay. You are now host, Robin. So look forward to your contribution.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And before we have a look at the tetramap model, I'd like to bring your attention to the tetrahedron. Now, the tetrahedron is the smallest, most stable unit within the universe. And the interesting thing about the tetrahedron is that according to Buckminster Fuller, who was a philosopher and an architect and a scientist, he suggested that the tetrahedron is the simplest, minimum and simplest structural system in the universe. Now, if we have a look at the tetrahedron in more detail, what we will see is that there are no opposite faces. Each face, and there are 4 of them, touches all of the other. So there's an interdependency between the faces, and there is a synergy between the faces. None of the faces are any bigger, greater, and more dominant than any of the other faces. And I think we can look at this or we can bear this in mind when we're looking at preferences around behavior and when we're looking at tetramap. So let's have a look at tetramap in a bit more detail. Let's unwrap the tetrahedron and ask you the question, where are you on the map? Now, we've been talking about personality and we've been talking about behavior. Each of us will have a strong preference for one way of behaving, and this gives us our focus. Now, it doesn't matter who we are or what we are, we will have one of these, or perhaps even 2, or maybe even 3 that blend together that give us our preferences. And this is what people will see of us, and this is what people will react when they are engaging with us. Now, the trick in terms of behavior is to be like the chameleon, but be a little bit more aware of how other people are demonstrating their preferences and adapt around them in order that you can build up good relationships with them. Because if you stick with your preference, you're going to find it very difficult to engage with other people and communication will break down. So let's have a look at each of these in turn. We have 4 elements: earth, air, water, and fire. And each of these elements has a particular, as I've said, focus. Earth is like a mountain. It's firm. Air is like the wind. It's clear. Water is like a lake. It's calm. And fire is like the sun. It's bright. Let's have a look at these in a little bit more detail. The earth preference is where people are focused on being firm. They like facts. People with an earth preference are decisive. They're very bold. They make decisions very quickly, and they like efficiency. The downside to somebody with an earth preference, if they stick with their earth preference, is that they can become quite blunt at times, and they can be perceived as being quite aggressive at times. People with an air preference are clear, like the wind. So what they like is logic. They like working with procedures, policies. They're very orderly in the way in which they're focused, and they are very accurate in what they do and how they do it. Their focus is very much on quality and doing things to the best of their ability. They can be perfectionists, and if they don't get what they want and what they need in order to have the clarity that they desire and the clarity that they are good at giving, they can come over as quite critical at times. The water element is calm. It's like a lake. So water is all about feelings. It's all about relationships. It's all about harmony. It's all about creating and building relationships, ideally without upsetting people, without ruffling the surface of the lake. So people with a water preference are considerate. People with a water preference are very patient. However, because of their focus and because they like to consider and patiently determine what impact major decisions are going to have on other people, they can come over at times as being quite hesitant. They can't and won't make big decisions without having gone through the consideration of the impact that this is going to have on them and on other people. And then finally, we have fire. Fire is bright like the sun. So what we have with fire is a focus on possibilities, what things can be, what things will be. And people with a fire preference are spontaneous. They're creative, they're innovative, they are enthusiastic about things. This is a great idea. Let's go with it. Come on, we know we can do it. The downside to this fire preference is the fact that people with a fire preference will go with what energizes them. And so they can be easily distracted from time to time from things that they find interesting to something else that they find even more interesting. So hopefully that gives you a quick overview of the tetramat model and how it works. And the great thing about the tetramat model is that none of these preferences is any more right or any more wrong than any of the others. And what we've got to learn to do in order to engage with people in an emotionally intelligent way is to identify what their preferences are and adapt and work around them. It's a case of giving them what it is that they need and building that up, not taking anything away from our own needs. And you can see my preference behind me, but actually working with that, perhaps dampening the preference down in order to deliver what the other person needs in the way in which they need it, and then bring elements of my own element in order to spontaneously and enthusiastically encourage people to be a little bit more like me at times when it's appropriate. So I hope that helps. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I'm going to hand you back to Mandy.
Thank you so much, Robin. That definitely did help. I'm sure as you listened to Robin, you identified with one aspect of your personality style more than another. But I'm sure that you could also have incorporated a couple of the others as well. And last week we talked about the Maasai and we talked about shared leadership. And I think what I like about the Tetramap style is that one of the things that works really well is if you're working together as a team. You know, if it's a new project and you want to be visionary, you need the visionaries. You need people like Robin, full of fire, full of enthusiasm, full of great ideas. But at the same time, you can't ignore the people who are building the relationship, the people who are inspiring the passion, people who are going to be the factual ones, who are going to build the strategies. So it highlights that, as Robin said, no one is right or wrong. We all need the different aspects, and being more aware of who we are and who other people are make it so much easier to know how to fit together as a team. So we really hope that you've enjoyed this evening's presentation. I hope that you would stand out like the chameleon in its brightest of colors in all your different personal and professional situations when you're making a difference. But I know that there are also the quieter times when you just want to be reflective, go deep inside to connect with yourself before you really go out there and connect with everybody else. But what Robin and I would like to offer you towards probably about March next year is if you'd like to find out a little bit more, what are your personality strengths, but more importantly, what are the rest of the strengths in your group, and how will you best work together, dealing with conflict, moving forward, being considerate and respectful and inclusive of one another. We'd love to do a couple of online webinars with you that end up being a fun day together out in all the elements, where we experience a bit of the earth, a bit of the air, a bit of the water, and have some really fiery moments as well. So if you're interested in something, an experience like that, please go to either of our LinkedIn profiles to get our email addresses, or you can go to my website, wildernessencounters.com. You'll find my email address and contact details there. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your wisdom and your presence this evening, Robin, and thank you to everyone who's listening in.
My pleasure, Mandy. Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure. I know you're really busy, so your time is very precious and deeply valued. I think you're the host now, Robin, so you're going to have to end it all for us and say goodbye.
Cheerio.
Bye.